his followers to attack our democracy, resulting in 5 deaths. His dangerous efforts to derail the peaceful transition of power were a violation of his oath of office. This president is unfit to lead our nation and unable to discharge his duties of office. I call upon my Republican colleagues to speak the truth to their supporters and join me in holding President Trump accountable by voting to impeach. I yield.
New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Mervan.
I didn't hear where it was from. The gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, since the events on January 6th, I spoke with a group of ministers from Gary, Indiana, and they told me how they are praying for unity and justice in our nation. It reminded me of the moment when those of us who were on the House floor on January 6th were huddled together in a secure room after the attack. The House chaplain, Kiblin, led us all in prayer. Let us remember that moment. Let us rekindle that prayer for those 3 minutes when we were all united to preserve our democracy and justice. I support the article of impeachment so that we can move forward to do the work that our constituents sent us here to do. With that, I yield back.
Has expired. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from New York has 2 3/4 minutes remaining. The gentleman from Ohio has 3. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserved. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Moulton.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, there are more troops right now in Washington, D.C. than in Afghanistan. And they are here to defend us against the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, and his mob. I would ask my colleagues to look at the faces of those young Americans defending democracy, defending us, and find an ounce of their courage to do the right thing, as several Republicans have, and take a tough vote for the future of democracy, for the future of our country.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Vesey.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, let's be clear about one thing. If we were on the eve of a Republican president being sworn in, and his Democratic predecessor had said the same thing that this president said, and incited his followers, his mob, to descend up on the Capitol, we will be joining them, not making comparisons, because guess what? I don't care about no base. I care about this democracy and this country. And what happened the other day should never happen again. And we need to stand up and say and do the right thing.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, the Republican whip is prepared to close for us whenever that is appropriate, so we'll reserve until that's time.
The gentleman reserves.
Madam Speaker,
The gentleman from New York.
I now yield 30 seconds to the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee.
The gentlewoman from Texas is recognized for 30 seconds.
I was on that floor just 1 week ago, and so today the insurrectionist in chief will be impeached for insurrection. It is because he failed to defend this nation against all enemies, domestic and foreign, and he stood down near the White House and told a mob of domestic terrorists to go and show your strength, be strong. You can't gain anything because of weakness. We must hold him accountable. We can heal this nation, but he must be impeached today. We must impeach Donald J. Trump as an
Gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from New
now.
York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. We reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio continues to reserve. The gentleman from New York.
Is the other side prepared to close?
Yes.
Then
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker,
Yes,
I yield
the
3
gentleman
minutes.
from Ohio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 3 minutes to the Republican whip, the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank the gentleman from Ohio for yielding. Madam Speaker, our nation still mourns the unacceptable violence and anarchy that took place in this Capitol last week. As we speak, arrests are still being made, and the anarchists who stormed our Capitol are being brought to justice, as should be the case. Emotions are still high, but in this moment, we need to be focused on toning down the rhetoric and helping heal this nation as we move towards a peaceful transition of power to President-elect Joe Biden next week. My prayers, Madam Speaker, are still with Capitol Police Officer Sieknick and Liebengood, who we lost, as well as all of the Capitol Police officers who risked their lives to keep us safe. They are true heroes, and they deserve all of our applause today. Madam Speaker, I've seen the dark evil of political violence firsthand, and it needs to stop. But all of us need to be unequivocal in calling it out every single time we see it, not just when it comes from the other side of the aisle. I oppose this rushed impeachment brought forward without a single hearing. And by the way, the Senate will not even take this up until President Trump is out of office. So let's keep that in mind. It will only serve to further divide a nation that is calling out for healing. Madam Speaker, many speakers today have invoked one of our nation's greatest leaders, President Abraham Lincoln. Maybe we should follow some of Lincoln's wisdom that he's imparted upon us in moments like this. As Abraham Lincoln was giving his second inaugural address in March of 1865, Lincoln issued us a challenge. This is what he said: "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all our nations." Madam Speaker, in times like these, let us not reach out to our darkest demons, but instead, like Lincoln, seek the higher ground. May God bless this great United States of America. I yield back.
The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we can have all this, but we have accountability too. I now yield our remaining time, 1 minute, to the distinguished Majority Leader of the House, Mr. Hoyer.
The majority of the leaders recognized for 1 minute.
I thank the chairman for yielding. This is a troubled time, a sad time. It is a time where all of us have stood almost to a person and lamented the violence and the assault on this Capitol and the assault on democracy itself. It was right to do that. But this impeachment ought to be put in the perspective of what the Republican chair of the Republican conference said it was. She said the President of the United States summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of that attack. There has never been, she said, a greater betrayal by a president of the United States of his office, and his oath to the Constitution. That is why we are here today. That is why we are here today, just a week before that president, at the request of the American people, will leave office. And the issue is, what do we do? The 433 of us, I believe, who are here, do on behalf of the American people to respond to what Representative Cheney described happened on the 6th of January. A mob assembled by, summoned by, and then spoken to light the flame of the attack. To stop the steal. As we sat here, exercising our constitutional duty, and to his great credit, the Vice President of the United States following the Constitution of the United States of America, notwithstanding the fact that he was opportuned by the President not to do so. That mob sent by the President to stop the steal did so for a few hours. Not the steal, but the constitutional duty that we had. And so we ask ourselves, what do we do? What is our responsibility? What should we say in light of only the Civil War as an analogy? That doesn't mean there haven't been demonstrations in Washington before and demonstrations throughout this country before. But it is the first and only physical presence other than the 9/11 attack on this nation, which came from abroad and had a plane aimed at our Capitol dome. This attack was not from abroad. It was, as Liz Cheney said, summoned, assembled, and inflamed by the President of the United States of America, who, in Liz Cheney said, words, that there has never been a greater betrayal by a President of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution. I pride myself as a member of this Congress who for 40 years has worked in a bipartisan fashion with many of your leaders, and do to this day. But are we to remain silent in the face of Liz Cheney's saying this was the greatest betrayal of the duty of the President of the United States in history? Are we to stand silent? Will we stand silent? Will we not stand up and say, this is not acceptable? Madam Speaker, for 4 years, Donald Trump has made no effort to hide his ambitions or his lacking of Republican principles. Not our principles, but the principles that Abraham Lincoln was just quoted as having said. Your president, our president, has never displayed those in the 4 years he's been president of the United States. He has allowed little constraint on his worst inclinations. His desire for autocracy and his glorification of violence have not been tempered, but rationalized by those who sought to profit financially and politically from their proximity to power. Upon the foundations of virtue, reason, and patient wisdom laid down by George Washington as our first president, Donald Trump has constructed a glass palace of lies, fear-mongering, and sedition. Last Wednesday, on January 6th, the nation and the world watched it shatter to pieces. There can be no mistaking any longer the kind of man sitting in the Oval Office or his intentions and capabilities. The curtain has been pulled back. The office to which he was elected could not temper or reform him. Washington's legacy was passed down to us not as written decrees. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
The gentleman's correct. The House will be in order.
Washington's legacy was passed down to us not as written decrees, but understood norms. How we ought to act, how we ought to conduct ourselves. Term after term, each occupant has observed those norms out of a recognition that our Constitution's articles are not the only preservative of our democracy. For more than 2 centuries, Madam Speaker, whenever those norms were tested and strained, good and virtuous citizens on both sides of the aisle found common purpose in reaffirming those norms. But memory fades, and from time to time it must be refreshed. Madam Speaker, as the framers emerged from the Constitution Convention, Benjamin Franklin was asked whether they had made America a monarchy or a republic. Probably all of us know this response. A republic, he answered, if you can keep it. That's the question today. If we can keep it. And the way we keep it is to say no to actions and words that do not promote the keeping of that republic. For millennia, people have understood that a republic is only as stable and lasting as the citizens and leaders who commit themselves to its upkeep. This president has shown us he's not committed to that project. His tweets every day have shown he is not committed to that project. Indeed, he openly disdains it and appears to prefer the alternative. But what of the rest of us? Those who have the honor and the great privilege and the weighty responsibility to represent the views of 750,000 of our fellow citizens. We in this Congress have an opportunity, no, a duty, to demonstrate our commitment, both as leaders and as citizens, to keeping America a republic. A republic that resolves its differences not through being ordered to come to the Capitol to prevent them from stealing the election, which was an absurd assertion from the very first day it was made. We cannot erase the last 4 years, Madam Speaker. We cannot turn back the clock, but we can look to the ideals and principles inherited from great presidents like Washington, like Jefferson, and yes, certainly like Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt, and from outstanding Americans like Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Susan Anthony, Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King, Thurgood Marshall, our beloved John Lewis, and yes, RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who taught us a lot about equality and inclusion. It's up to us to restore the vibrancy, Madam Speaker, of our democracy by reaffirming our commitment to the norms they passed on to us and entrusted to our care. But to make that possible, Madam Speaker, we must rise to this moment and not only affirm the virtues we cherish, but reject the vices we abhor. That's what I'm asking my fellow representatives on both sides of the aisle to do today. We all stood and we abhorred the violence that occurred and the threat to the very democracy that we hold so dear and swore an oath to protect and uphold. Reject deceit. Reject fear-mongering. Reject sedition, tyranny, and insurrection. Reject the demand for fealty to one man over fidelity to one's country. When I addressed the House during the debate over the articles of impeachment in December 2019, I said the following: "We need not ask who will be the first to show our courage by standing up to President Trump. The question we must ask, who will be the last to find it?" Senator McConnell,
The fuck?
Representative Cheney, a number of other representatives who have spoken on this floor with great courage, Madam Speaker, because there is much fear of Donald Trump. There's much fear of Donald Trump's tweets. There's much fear of Donald Trump's retribution for opposition. In my view, Donald Trump demands absolute loyalty and gives none in return. I hope others will join Liz Cheney. I hope others will be honest with themselves and with their constituents. As Liz Cheney was saying, there has never been a greater betrayal by a President of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution. Don't dismiss that. She's the daughter of a Vice President of the United States who was the whip when I came to Congress. As she has taken a stand, I hope others will as well, Madam Speaker. Soon, the clerk will call the roll and ask for our votes. Make no mistake, this will be no ordinary roll call. This is about our country, our Constitution, and our democracy. These votes will be inscribed on the roll of history, a record of courage and of our commitment to country and Constitution, of our commitment to the rule of law and renewal of that which we inherited and hope to pass on, unbroken, unshattered. With just 7 days left in the President's term, this vote is not about timing. It is about principle and fidelity to our Constitution. It concerns the clear and present danger facing our country, not only in these final days of the Trump administration, but in the weeks, months, and years that will follow. It is about the necessity to demonstrate to this generation and to future generations the duty we share to protect our democracy every single day. Do not pretend, my friends, that it was simply those who came into the Capitol, encouraged by our president to stop the steal at any cost. And by the way, if the vice president doesn't do my bidding and follows the Constitution, sweep him away. We know that this president would never emulate George Washington and give up his power for the good of our republic, even after losing an election. Somebody talked about a peaceful transition. There has not been a peaceful transition. I don't know what you're talking about. You're not living in the same country I am. It was just days ago that the president, after committing this terrible act, thought he had to admit that Joe Biden might, yes, be president of the United States. We know that this president neither recognizes norms nor reflects the rule of law. We know that this president is not a patriot. So I ask this House, who among us, Madam Speaker, will be recorded on the roll of history for their courage, their commitment, the Constitution, and their country? We do this today not for politics. We don't need this for politics. Georgia showed that. There was no mistake in this election. We do this today to preserve and protect this great democracy. We do it for the
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Bonnie Watson Coleman pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Ms. Watson Coleman will vote yes on H-Res 24. And as the member designated by Mr. Albio Series pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Series will vote yes on H-Res 24. And finally, as the member designated by Mr. Paul Tonko pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Tonko will vote yes on H-Res 24.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Kansas seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. LaTurner, Kansas, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. LaTurner will vote nay on House Resolution 24.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Presley of Massachusetts pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Ms. Presley will vote yes on H-Res 24.
Does the gentleman from Connecticut seek recognition?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Adam Smith of Washington State, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Smith will vote yes on H-Res 24.
I'll let them do this. Okay, you good? For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Illinois seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Carson pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Carson will vote yes on H-Res 24.
What purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
As the member designated by Chairwoman Eddie Bernice Johnson pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Chairwoman Johnson will vote yea on H-Res 24. As the member designated by Congressman Brendan Boyle pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Congressman Boyle will vote yea on H-Res 24.
Hey, everybody. I apologize for that. We're at the end of Hoyer's speech. I ended up with my power going out. So, we've already got 5 Republicans. Yeah. He's getting impeached, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh. The gentlewoman from Florida seek recognition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the member designated by Dr. Dunn of the state of Florida pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Dr. Dunn will vote nay on H-Res 24. As the member designated by Mr. Buchanan from the state of Florida pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House
the vote to
that
impeach.
Mr. Buchanan will vote nay
If
on
every
H-Res
Democrat
24.
votes to impeach, he's impeached. And that's without the 4 Republicans. So,
Pennsylvania seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Lawson of Florida 5th Congressional District pursuant to House Resolution 8, I'm informed that Mr. Lawson will vote yes on H.R. 24.
This is the gentleman from California seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Representative Michelle Steele, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Representative Michelle Steele will vote no on House Resolution 24.
I hope you're listening.
This is the gentleman from Nebraska seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Mr. Bill Rockus of Florida pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Bill Rockus will vote nay on H-Res 24.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona seek recognition?
As a member designated by Representative Cardenas pursuant to H.R. 8, I inform the House Representative Cardenas will vote aye on H.R. 24. As a member designated by Representative Kirkpatrick pursuant to H.R. 8, I inform the House Representative Kirkpatrick will vote aye on H.R. 24.
This is the gentlewoman from New York seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Young of Alaska pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Young will vote nay on House Resolution 24. Thank you.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Baird from Indiana pursuant to HRes 8, I inform the House that Mr. Baird will vote no on HRes 24.
This is the gentlewoman for Virginia seek recognition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the member designated by Mr. McEachin pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. McEachin will vote yes on House Resolution 24. And as the member designated by Ms. Porter pursuant to HRes 8, I inform the House that Ms. Porter will vote yes on HRes 24.
This is not to impeach the president immediately. This vote is to impeach the president, which is step one of a two-step process. If this passes, then this all gets taken up by the Senate. The Senate will then have a trial, which is a much more rigid situation where Trump's lawyers get a say, there's evidence, same thing happened last time. So all this is doing is indicting the president, saying that there's probable cause to go to trial. In reality, all this is a fucking shit show.
For what
Excuse my
purpose does the
language.
gentleman from Michigan seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Bergman,
What these people are doing is due to the COVID situation. HR 8 was put in place, and these people are standing up. There's 64 House members that are, for whatever reason, not there. So they are being allowed to vote by proxy. So this guy has been made proxy for another House member, and he is standing up and stating the vote for that member. No problem, Marissa. I appreciate you you watching. Yeah, this is a show. Unfortunately, it's gonna pass. It only needs a simple majority, which means they needed half the members plus one. They have that many just Democrats. They have the House, so they were gonna do it, and it's a shame, travesty, it's a joke, but it's happening. So the next step is for it to go all to the Senate. The thing about it is the Senate is currently in recess until 1 hour after inauguration. So the Senate isn't supposed to be in session until an hour after the end of the inauguration on the 20th. So that being said, constitutionally, there's a challenge there. No one has ever been tried after they've left office. So expect that to be big. I think for some reason the Democrats are hoping that McConnell will call in the Senate to start a trial in the next couple of days, which is not going to happen. Um, the other thing about it is in the Senate, it's a 2/3 supermajority, which means they need 66 senators to vote to convict, which means they would have to get 16 senators from the Republican side to vote to convict him. Even with the rhinos, even with, all the guys that have lost their mind, they would have a hard time getting there. And Marissa, I think you're responding, or you're referencing the 25th Amendment, which Pence said he would not. So, hold on here. Do the math real quick for you. For this to pass in the House with a simple majority, you would need I can't stand that woman right there. Woo! Woo, 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 woo. Talking about sedition. Her and the rest of her little group right there can fight it. All right, they need 217 votes in order for this to pass. So, pretty sure that's going to happen. I don't know what Pelosi's been doing. I know earlier she was outside the Capitol building giving National Guard troops challenge points. She obviously did her little 3-minute speech here on the floor. Outside of that, I have no idea. The last 3 days, she's advocated her position and given someone else her job duties within the first 3. Yeah, they need 27 votes at this point. Ever remember those 7 Republicans? I'll post who they are when this is all over. What I've been trying to do, if you go on to the Kraken Facebook page, while we were doing this, I was creating videos of each person as they spoke. So there's probably, the last time I counted, there's 61 videos on the Kraken page of each individual person that spoke. So you can share it, find your favorite person. Try to do the same thing we did with the hearing. Make everything easily shareable. I won't. They won't show the who voted yay, nay, or anything until the vote's over. But as soon as the vote is over, I will post who they are. So, my people in the comments, who is your favorite Speaker, on the Republican side, who do you think that did the best speech? Well, we knew a couple were. One of the Republicans was called. I wrote it down somewhere. Yeah, there's a lot of people. And you give everybody 30 seconds. A lot of people get to talk. Matt Gaetz, always, always a good speaker. Jim Jordan, he did a great job. I mean, think about it. He had to sit there, and you realize as they're going back and forth, they both get 2 hours, right? So what they're attempting to do is get the last word. Now, I don't understand why, if you're paying attention, when they called up Hoyer as the last speaker for the Dems, they only had a minute and something left on the clock. He spoke for nearly 20 minutes, which I don't understand unless they're doing something out of respect because he's old. I don't know, but he shouldn't have been able to get that much airtime. All right, they need 10 more votes in order for this to pass. I think my unfavorite was probably Cory Bush, the Democrat from Kentucky, Louisville, I think, St. Louis. The one that called him a racist president, a bunch of racist followers. No, I take that back. Nancy Pelosi was worse. A couple things you might or might not have noticed. If you notice in the beginning, the first probably 6 speakers on the Democrat side all mentioned the big lie. The big lie is a reference to a something that Biden has done twice now. He's mentioned the big lie in reference to Trump right before the election, in reference to Cruz and Gates and Hawley after the 6th. The big lie is a reference to Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propagandist, and is basically their way of calling everybody on the Republican side Nazis without saying Nazi. But I really appreciate everybody hanging out. I know you, if you're anything like me, you're probably yelling at your monitor or your TV or your phone. The blatant lies, the reshaping of reality, of truth, is infuriating. And they need two more votes. Oh wait, did Nancy Pelosi come back? Sitting up on the chair, ready to announce that he was impeached again. And there you go. Sorry, my fellow deplorables, but President Trump has been impeached twice. Now, what is important to remember, this really means nothing. All this means that it's now going to the Senate. What happens in the Senate is what's important. Steve, I won't know until the vote's over and they put out the breakdown of who voted how. But as soon as they do, I will let Yeah, as soon as they post, I'll let you know. Oh, I'm sure there was more than 10 that kept their pants. These were just the ones that were probably wearing diapers to begin with. Oh, by the way, Nancy Pelosi passed a resolution last night, I believe, at some point, or maybe earlier in the day. Um, Anyone in the House chambers that is caught without a mask on is now subject to a $500 fine. And if you notice at one point during this morning's activities, they the acting speaker who was standing up in the top there stopped everything and told somebody to put their mask on. Kind of rude. Jerry, Matt, thank you very kindly for the donations. Appreciate it more than I can say. Everybody in D Live that gave lemons and and such earlier. I do appreciate that. Saw it. Unfortunately, I was trying to crank those videos out real quick as they were going. All right. Yeah, it's gonna be a second before I can tell you who those 10 people are. Yes, they did install metal detectors, and from what I read, at least 3 Republicans decided they weren't going to put up with that shit and refused to be searched, even though the metal detectors went off and entered the chambers with weapons anyway. Yeah, I do believe that is Nancy Pelosi up there. Who are these 5 people? Like, come on, you know how you're gonna vote. Like, why are you holding everything up? That is absolutely true. Okay, how impeachment is supposed to work is this is supposed to be the investigative portion of impeachment. This is where they're supposed to investigate, hear, evidence, supposed to search for probable cause to indict, which impeachment is an indictment, and then send to trial. Think of this perfect analogy. In this particular situation, they are acting as a grand jury. So basically, this is a grand jury that has not heard a bit of evidence outside of what they've seen in the media, and they're handing down an indictment. Come on, 5 people. You can do it. Do it. The fact that this impeachment was brought forth by Ilya and Omar. Makes me want to punch something.
Have all members voted? Does any member wish to change a vote?
Here we go.
Where's she coming from? No, can't go.
Apparently 6 people or 5 people just dropped off the face of the earth. Okay. During normal procedure, the time remaining clock at the bottom, they have 15 minutes to cast votes when they're all sitting in there. One of the reasons this is taking so long is because they are doing this proxy shit and the rest of it. Okay. All the Democrats voted. They found that guy.
On this vote, the ayes are 232. The nays are 197. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Congratulations. That's it. What now?
That's it. It's just being replaced.
And everybody, what?
Did she just say what now? Bitch, you did this last year. What do you mean, what now? Ugh. What have you been doing for the last 3 days? How do you not know the process?
The chair announces that pursuant to
No.
Section
And
3A
then
of
she
House
leaves
Resolution
again.
41, the House Resolution 40 is hereby adopted.
Then she leaves again.
Stop
The chair announces the Speaker's appointment pursuant to Clause 11 of Rule 10, Clause 11 of Rule 1, in the order the following of the House of January 4th, 2021, of the following members of the House to the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence.
Mr. Schiff of California, Chair. Mr. Nunes of California.
Okay, so she just re-upped Schiff's chairmanship of chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Yes, we all need to take a shot. I suggest a good whiskey. But whatever you have will do.
Pursuant to Section 5A, 1B of House Resolution 8, the House stands adjourned until 11 a.m. on Friday, January 15th, 2021.
Well, that? Awesome. All right. Let me see if I can find the information for you on who those 10 people are. Of course, they haven't done that yet. They haven't released it yet. Roll number 17. They haven't released it yet. Let's see if I can find it here. Nope. Okay, they haven't released it yet. I will put it on the page as soon as they do, however. This is the page where you go to see all the votes. They haven't uploaded it yet. These are the 2 votes they did earlier. Normally pretty quick about it. But like I said, I will put it up on the Facebook page. I appreciate everybody sticking it out. I'm going to put up a couple highlight videos. Make sure to check out the Facebook page for Kraken.Institute. There's like 62 videos up there of each person that spoke, whether it be 30 seconds or 3 minutes. So you can share it, like it, view them all. Yeah, I appreciate it. If you do have the ability and the want, you can donate. That'd be awesome. If not, completely understand. Thank you all. I really do appreciate it. I really do thank everybody for their comments. Y'all kept the comment section nice and clean today, and I appreciate that. Really trying not to lose any platforms so I can keep bringing these videos and everything to you guys. All right. I appreciate it. Everybody have a good couple hours. If anything happens, I'll be back on live. Otherwise, great rest of the day. I'll be updating the Facebook page. Dinner. Appreciate everybody. Take it easy.